Hi, so I'm Neil Turner. I'm going to talk about how to grow your growth mindset superpower. So, the hidden superpower is a mainstay of stories, comics, and films. From seemingly normal looking mutants with special powers in the X-Men comics and films, to cheerleaders with unsuspecting healing powers in the Heroes TV show, and of course, Peter Parker gaining spider powers after being bitten by a radioactive spider. Deep down, we all harbor dreams of being a superhero, even if it's a really shit superhero. But what if I told you that whilst sadly gaining superpowers is never going to happen, we all have the power to gain new abilities? So I'd like to tell the story of someone who did just that. In 2008, Malcolm Gladwell published Outliers. In the book, Gladwell looks at what is behind highly successful individuals in the world of sport, business, music, and politics. He identified a number of important factors behind success, but one that he says is most important is the concept of 10,000 hours of deliberate practice. So Gladwell argues that if you look at successful sportsmen and women, musicians, artists, and professionals, most have spent at least 10,000 hours learning their craft. So, for example, the Beatles famously spent years honing their craft in Liverpool and Hamburg prior to making it big. And Bill Gates spent years as a youth writing computer code before founding Microsoft with Paul Allen. Inspired by this idea, Dan McLaughlin, a 30-year-old photographer, decided to see if he could gain a new power. He decided to give up his day job of taking photos to become a full-time golfer. And this is despite having barely picked up a golf club in those 30 years. Working with a team of coaches, he wanted to see if he could make it to the PGA Tour. McLaughlin wanted to find out whether through determination and hard work, he could gain a new golfing superpower. More than that, McLaughlin wanted to show that success is not just down to talent. As he said, the idea of talent is like living in a society of kings and princes. If you don't limit yourself by this idea, it's more like a democracy. If this was a fictional story, it would end with McLaughlin making it to the PGA and miraculously winning a famous golf tournament. But of course, fact is not the same as fiction. Sadly, McLaughlin never did make it to the PGA Tour. A chronic back injury prevented him from continuing his experiment after 5 years. But he did lower his handicap to an impressive 2.6, putting him in the top 95th percentile of golfers. However, McLaughlin is a great example of what you can set out to do if you have a growth mindset. If you believe that everyone has the capability to grow and develop themselves. So, what is a growth mindset? So the term comes from research undertaken by Carol Dweck, a psychologist at Stanford University in the United States of America. Her research in the 2000s, primarily in the education sector, identified two prevailing mindsets when it comes to learning: a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. Individuals with a fixed mindset believe that traits and abilities such as intelligence, talent, and personality are fixed, hence the name. Therefore, there's little that can be done to improve these traits, and failure is intimidating because it suggests limitations that cannot be easily overcome. Individuals with a growth mindset, on the other hand, believe that these abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work. In other words, like Dan McLaughlin, they believe that brains and talent are just the starting point. Carol Dweck found that someone's mindset can have a big impact on a student's level of success. As she says, this growth mindset view creates a love of learning and a resilience that is essential for great accomplishment. In a growth mindset, challenges are exciting rather than threatening. And research has also shown that a growth mindset is not only great for learning, it's also great for overall well-being. Individuals with a growth mindset rather than a fixed mindset are less likely to have mental health issues and stress due to life events. They have greater resilience and are less likely to be negatively impacted by stress. So, how can you grow your own growth mindset? So here are some tips for doing this. Firstly, it's vital that you're prepared to get outside your comfort zone. Outside of your comfort zone are your learning and growth zones. This is where you acquire new skills and learnings. So think about challenges that you can take on outside of your comfort zone. For example, learning a new skill, taking on a new role, or taking on a new challenge. One way to get outside your comfort zone might be to do a talk at a conference for the first time. Not only is it a great way of getting a free ticket to events, it's a great way to improve your presentation and communication skills. To help focus your challenges, you should create a learning and development plan. Start by thinking about what you want to achieve in the next 12 months and what skills and traits you'll need to be able to do that. You can then identify weaknesses to develop and strengths to build on. This will help you to identify your key development areas. You can then outline your 3, 6, and 12 months goals and development activities to work towards those goals for each area. It's also worth considering the 70-20-10 model of learning. So this model recommends that you aim for mostly on-the-job learning, supplemented with collaboration and some formal training. So think about how you can incorporate learning and development goals into your day-to-day job. Identify people that you can learn with or from, and formal training to help complement your learning. Expanding your learning network is a great way to help turbocharge your learning and development. And there are lots of online communities covering design and UX, along with face-to-face communities. These communities can be a great way to find a mentor or to simply get advice from fellow design professionals. Another important component of having a growth mindset is to seek out feedback. Without feedback, you're learning blind. And in the same way that Dan McLaughlin worked with coaches to determine what he's doing well and what he could be doing better, you should be continually reach out to colleagues to get feedback. So if you've run a workshop, reach out to some participants to find out if they have any feedback for you. If you've been working with someone, again, reach out, find out about some feedback. And if you're not comfortable doing it yourself, you can ask your manager to get feedback on your behalf. Having a growth mindset is not something you can achieve on an ad hoc basis. It requires daily focus. And I found it to be useful to spend 5 minutes at the start and end of the day capturing my goals, achievements, and learnings. This not only helps to open and then close your working day, it also helps to remind you of what you've achieved and what you've learnt and how you can make tomorrow even better. There's a great checklist available from the Careers Psychologist website with some good questions to ask yourself, both at the beginning and end of the day. Not only is it a good idea to plan your day, it's also a great idea to regularly reflect on your day and your week. This again helps to identify what you've accomplished, what you've learnt, and how you can learn and grow even more. So I have an end of week mural that I'll fill out, for example, on a Friday afternoon. This includes what went well that week, what could have been better, what I accomplished, what I learnt, what next week's priority is, and how I can make next week a success. Finally, and most importantly, you should always stay curious. So a growth mindset is not something just to be used every now and then. You should be using it all the time. And like any muscle, the more you utilize a growth mindset, the better you get at using it and at learning and development. So, to summarize, some tips for growing your growth mindset. Firstly, to get outside your comfort zone, find those challenges that you can take on. Utilize your learning and development plan and think about those 3-month, 6-month, and 12-month goals. Use a 70-20-10 learning model to think about how you can bring some of that learning into your day-to-day job and complement that with formal learning and working with others. Expand your learning network, so look at opportunities to do so, maybe find a mentor. To seek feedback for the work that you're doing and obviously give feedback for others as well. And it's a really good idea to start and end your day with a plan. So spend a little bit of that time thinking about what you want to achieve, and at the end of the day, what you've learned, how you can make tomorrow an even more of a success. And to regularly reflect, maybe at the end of the week, or to regularly take that time to think about how things are going. And then finally, just be curious, keep using that growth mindset. So thank you very much.